favorite place when I was in junior high. And then even after I loved going there. But I had tons
It's
of
only the
friends
second
up
favorite
there.
place because we love Waseca. That's
Oh, yeah, right.
Have you guys ever been to the downtown Waseca or anything? It reminds me a lot of, it's just slightly bigger aisle, because it's on Clear Lake, which is a much smaller lake, but I love it. It's like 10 minutes from the house. That's where like I do all my work, and, like business and bank and feed store and all that stuff. Everybody knows us there.
No, that's Wabasha.
Wabasha.
It's that.
What's the date? Okay. Yeah, well, thank you. So you can do it. I'll send you a. Thank you. You're not here next week either, right?
I'm finally paying for those things that I overcharged. Those are for my walk, my good research. And I did send you the invoice for the website, yeah. If you didn't get it, I didn't like that day. I said in an email I sent that, and I said, when we talked the last time, this is like a month and a half ago.
Uh-oh.
I mean, I've got it as a document on my computer.
Like somebody's logo.
Okay.
And so it's. Now, notice the date on this is the 31st. And then, you know, so, you know, because I won't be visiting. Also.
I used to go to Mexican Heather in Florida.
Oh, yeah, Mexican Heather, we saw that in our shows here. So. Stages, 37. This time,
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah, this, yeah.
Immense display. You have to go.
Okay.
Everything.
Okay. Well, when you're gone next weekend, that's where I should take this vacation.
No, I'm actually, I'm gonna be here, it's the 26th.
Okay, so I'm gonna be next weekend, but we're planning on that place. Just, go. So,
My tractor.
yeah, that's the closest one.
Is it
It is.
really?
So,
Sure.
yeah,
When is that?
we're we took a little vacation from the 18th through the 22nd, so we haven't decided which day we're gonna go. We're just kind of like not kind of planning.
February, right?
21st.
Okay.
March 1st. So if it's somewhere in there and.
I'll let you know.
I know. And I say about, careful, and more she'll do. Not really well, but she's. So.
We'll just let you know.
Yeah. Let us know. Yeah. Well, that weekend.
Yeah.
Just to take a look at it.
I'll let you know, because it's a group decision, so I don't know what all we're doing yet.
Great. But to be, you know,
So are you not here next week?
I'm gonna be honest. And that was one of the things that, like, the person that I asked is a close friend of mine, and he's in the scholar. But I emailed him and talked to him, like, I'll get back to you soon. He should know something.
No, I can't do it.
Well, no, he's gonna be here.
Oh.
He hasn't told me, you know, what's trying to order. And sometimes I don't get that. The reason why. Sometimes I.
It's just kind of.
From Barbara, I think.
Fine.
On Thursday.
I think it's always-
I'm just saying, it's just reality.
Yeah, been there.
Oh, that's right. You kind of did that before,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I was a little meaner, I think, about.
Well, last year,
Before.
last year was the nuance. All these people that I've used, I'll come and help you. So there was this energy.
Oh.
But this year, it's like, it's not, they don't want to help it. Everybody's just multiply everything.
Right. I mean,
We want to work on it.
and I promised you some people to contact for.
Yeah, please.
Actually, my ideas are internally. looking at the.
Josh,
Yeah.
You know, for me,
I take
more of
it.
a nature.
there you go.
Three minutes in the air. Every time they go. That's what's special.
Right, right.
Well, I'm with you. I mean, I, you know, it's why I'm not. Like amazed, you know. So, nature is. Yeah.
Really special. I left it on this Pittsburgh castle. Really special. I've seen enough. It's like at home, I put it in that basket. Tell Bryan you're great.
Oh, yeah.
Very interesting.
Enjoying the pleasant weather, or do you like snow? Yeah.
I drive.
The thing is, we get any snow gets put off, you kind of get used to it.
Yeah.
And then if we get,
29.
I still haven't got that big
No, we haven't.
pounding.
We stick to it exactly. Give you an idea. The things we do.
I don't know you, but.
So. Oh, okay. So people.
I'm definitely.
Play the music. Enjoy your concert or Bryan inside.
So.
Also, I don't know if you want.
That or we use this, cheese I brought out. It's the mozzarella over there. Whatever, it has to be sliced. If you want to use that.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to all of those of you who have joined us here face to face, and welcome to all who have joined us online. My name is Bryan, and my pronouns are he, him. We're glad that everyone is here in whatever capacity. And these are a few of our announcements for today. One such announcement that I keep omitting, and I'm going to put in my regular line item here, is that we try really hard to keep the service to 1 hour. And that is our commitment, but sometimes our commitment goes over a little bit. And so we want you to understand that we don't want to keep you hostage. So if you need to leave, please feel free to do so without having any kind of guilty conscience. But if we're, we're planning this worship service and then we have a song that needs to be done because we've spent hours trying to get it prepared, we as in Kathleen or whomever, then we'll probably go ahead and do it, but you can leave if you need to. What I'd like to do is also give you an announcement for next week. I will not be here, but one of my dear friends and colleagues who's a retired Presbyterian minister and Martin Luther King Jr. scholar in the world of theology will be joining us via Zoom to give some insights, timely on Martin Luther King Jr. weekend. So we're really excited to have him. And before that, this Friday, January the 17th is our, what do we call it? Is it PAM or MAP or Poetry and Music or Music and Poetry Friday night, third Friday service, whatever we want to call it. But the third Fridays at 6:30. This Friday, very special because we're going to do music stuff. And so while we will still have our candle lighting, which is a little different from what we do on Sundays, and some readings and certainly some music, Chuck is going to lead us in writing a song as a group. And so we're really excited about that creative outlet.
And you don't need any experience. It'll be just a collective decision-making process that myself and Kathleen will help guide, and
Wonderful.
we'll figure it out.
That's so exciting. These third Friday services are really about creativity and authenticity and doing things together. So we're really excited about that and hope that you'll join us. Another announcement is there is a march Saturday, January the 18th. UUs are gathering to stand for justice and equality. There is a meeting at Cathedral Hill Park at 11 to 11:15 before the 11:30 pre-march rally at St. Paul College. There is an announcement on the slide here. If you need more information about that, to whom do we? I know Kathy was the one that said it, but she's not feeling well, so she's not here right now.
They
But
can contact.
okay, so contact Kelly. There is going to be a sign making date, but I didn't have that in here. It says insert date. And then
Thursday evening or Friday afternoon.
And
okay,
Kathy's.
okay, great. And follow up with Kelly if you need more information about that. Another announcement that is a regular one is that we don't take, at least for now, we don't take an offering by passing a plate, but we do have the plate back there. So we invite you to give if you feel so moved to do so, because our ministry, our outreach, our social justice activities, and all of those things do take money to actually execute. So we would really appreciate your support if you feel like you could do that. Any other announcements? That's the end of my list.
Choir will start on next Sunday after the service, and we'll do, what would that be, the second and fourth Sundays, or the
No,
No.
first and third.
first and third Sundays? We'll do choir after the service.
First and third. Thank you. Other announcements? Keep wanting to say going once. Okay, with that, I invite everyone to take a deep, slow, authentic breath and try to separate yourself from the chaos, the traffic, all of those things that separate us from our peace and from the peace that's around us. And let us meditate to this musical prelude. I invite you to remain seated and join us in our opening words. They are adapted from The Light Within Us by Bryan C. Lee from the UUA. Today we are gathered here in the light of new beginnings.
We light our chalice as a symbol of the light within us and the life that flows through the world around us.
We gather in the light of hope and new life ahead.
The light of our chalice reflects the light within us.
We gather in the light of expectation and truth.
The light of our chalice is our beacon as we search for truth.
We gather in the light of warmth and compassion.
The light of our chalice is the admission within our hearts to share our love.
We gather in the light of action.
The light of our chalice and the light within us propels us with the energy to take action.
Therefore, in the spirit of the light that kindles us all together, we light this chalice together and say,
May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers, to heal with love, to help with compassion, to bless with joy, to serve you, Spirit of freedom,
in the fullness of community.
I now invite you to join us in our opening hymn, Rise as You Were Able, number 338. Number 338.
I will play through it first.
true and free. Children are really on the lines. May I see faith's a gift to our eyes.
You may be seated. This is the time in our service where we take a pause and intentionally call to our commitment to our beloved community here and all around us and all around the world. Just as love knows no borders, our dedication to justice reaches across boundaries and walls. We show up on the side of love with all families, regardless of citizenship status, and strive to create welcoming communities and congregations. We organize and advocate for immigration reform, for an end to detentions and deportations, and for a world where hands are extended in peace and care across borders, and no one feels forced to leave home or risk death in pursuit of a decent life for their family. We affirm immigration as a moral issue and have long spoken out in support of immigrant justice. And we are a sanctuary congregation. We work and give resources to provide safe spaces for those under threat. People of faith and conscience are expanding what it means to offer sanctuary to include not only physical sanctuary, but also sanctuary policies, sanctuary campuses, and sanctuary community support networks. Therefore, as Dakota is definitely a musical and poetic congregation, I offer these poetic lyrics that are meant to affirm our support of those who have and are migrating to safer and more promising lands. Would you harbor me? Would you harbor me? Would I harbor you? Would you harbor me? Would I harbor you? Would you harbor a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, a heretic, convict, or a spy? Would you harbor a runaway woman or child, a poet, a prophet, a king? Would you harbor an exile or a refugee or a person living with AIDS? Would you harbor a Tubman, a Garrett, a Truth, a fugitive, or a slave? Would you harbor a Haitian, Korean, or Ukrainian, a lesbian, gay, or trans person? Would you harbor me? Would I harbor you? Would you harbor me? Would I harbor you? May it be so. Blessed be. This is the time in our service where we pause again to take a moment to acknowledge joys and concerns from those of you here and from those of you online. So if you have a joy and or a concern and feel so moved to do so, you may come up and light a candle and share, or you can light a candle in silence. And if anybody online wants a candle lit, Chuck would be happy to do that for you. Just chime in. And at the very end, once all of those have been shared, I will light a final candle for all of those joys and concerns that have not been shared.
Today is my father's 89th birthday. I'm so grateful that he's doing as well as he is. He wouldn't say he's doing well, but he's frustrated, but he is doing well.
I have a concern. Oops.
Go ahead.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Um, If you've
What?
been,
Yeah, Megan.
I thought someone else was talking. If you've been following the fires in California, my hometown has basically been burned to the ground. Altadena, California. It's pretty shocking because my family and I lived there until I graduated from high school, and then that's when we moved down to the beach to get out of the the smog. But one of my very best friends from all the way back from junior high school, he's lost everything. He got his 3 horses out and the clothes on his back, and that's it. And he's obviously in a state of shock, as are so many other people. And there are just no words to express the feeling of that beautiful. It was really like a village. So many of the businesses, I'd say all of the business, maybe except maybe some of the grocery stores, were kind of mom and pop, not part of any chains. And so those people have not only probably lost their homes, they've lost their businesses and the income, and then the people who they employed have lost their jobs. So it's just beyond fathoming what people are going through. So that's it.
Thank you, Megan. Barbara, did you have one as well? Okay.
Somebody else joining, not somebody.
Yeah.
What are your candle for, kiddo?
Going back to school tomorrow.
Go back to school again, all right.
Me too.
Me too.
I'm glad that's a good thing. And then I have a candle, not such a good thing. I got to spend the last 2 days helping a friend of mine get out of his parents' house. His father is struggling with his alcoholism, and he's letting the rage get the best of him, so I had to get his mother and him out. So hopefully that situation gets better.
Well, this definitely is a concern. I found out yesterday that, let's see, my nephew lives in Tucson, and his stepmother has a daughter who had a daughter, but so it's the stepmom's granddaughter committed suicide on December 29th. And she was successful. She had a trucking company, and she had big semis, and she had a successful company and everything. But anyway, suicide prevention is so important, but the suicide by guns is the highest statistic of death in this country, unfortunately. So pay attention to people and make sure you know if they have a gun or if they're keeping it safe, you know. So.
This one is a hope more than either a joy or a concern. Megan's remarks reminded us of all the personal tragedy of the California fires. And those personal stories deserve our attention and our compassion. But the story is not a personal one, it's a political one. And I hope and pray that we finally turn this experience into, as one New York Times reporter wrote, rage the equivalent of the Santa Ana winds that comes down on the fossil fuel companies and the politicians who have been inactive or actively working to preserve climate change. It's time for action and fury. I hope it arises.
Okay, well, I'm going to light a candle. It's more of a joy than concern, but as many of you know, I resigned from a Sunday afternoon job, and I was just exhilarated to have some time. But I have another job on Sunday afternoons now. I'm delivering 31 dozen eggs today from some very spoiled and organically fed and restoratively generated chickens. And it's a mixed blessing because I'd rather go home and nap. But you know, people need eggs, and so here we are. And now I'll light a final candle for all those joys and concerns that remain unspoken. May we know that whatever befalls us in life, we are held in the loving embrace of this community. And now we say together, for all of these joys and concerns, both spoken and unspoken,
we hold you in our hearts.
So if you read the announcement that came from MailChimp, there was a pre-reflective reading in there by Howard Thurman, which some of you probably heard before, The Work of Christmas. So I didn't want to read that one again, so if you want to know about that one, go read the MailChimp. How's that, Chuck? Did that work out really well? Unintended PSA. Okay, and now this reflective reading is in addition to that. It's called Embracing the Light by April Humason, a UU minister. In this chaotic world of stress, put on your finest, let's address the beauty within, no need to guess. Impress yourself, embrace the best. Open wide your eyes, see the way. Opportunity awaits each day. Release the fear, let worries sway, and let positivity hold sway. Share your smile with those in need. Bleed out compliments, sow the seed of joy and kindness. Let hearts feed. And watch the darkness, the world's darkness recede. With dignity, take up the lead. In every action, plant a seed of love and hope. Let hearts be freed. In unity, let love succeed. So don your best dress, my friend. Embrace the light, let love extend, for in this world we can amend and heal the wounds that life has penned. So the title of my presentation is, So the Light is Returning, Now What? And you know, it came to me before this morning, obviously, or not so obviously, I actually tried to prepare it, but as the council knows, I woke up this morning and the sun was shining brightly where I live. There was only a couple stray clouds in the sky and it was a beautiful sunrise. And as I embarked on my journey in joy to the church this morning, it got snowier and snowier and salt trucks held me back and I was a little late for the council meeting. Sorry, President. But the light is returning, whether it snowed today or not. In fact, I know that many of us probably wish there was a little more snow. Those of us that like to play in the snow, maybe go snowmobiling, ice fishing. But all of Advent, and even up until the Sunday before Epiphany, when I talked about Epiphany, we celebrated the idea of expecting the light, and then extending our gratitude for the days getting longer again. And so in all of that Advent and Epiphany journey, we kept saying, the light is returning, we're so happy. And it was like we were looking for joy, even though when we were marching towards and into some of the darkest days of the year, as far as the sunlight goes. And what I find interesting this time of year is that the light is returning, but all the lights are being taken down, except for those people that leave their Christmas decorations up until spring, which, you know, I can appreciate that. But it's often quite challenging for many this time of year because the joyous celebrations, the family get-togethers are all coming to an end. School is starting for those of us that are students and those of us that are teachers. And life has some sort of semblance of getting back to at least a new type of normal. But it is also a season of widespread depression and angst. And this particular year, many of you know, is a season where people are fraught with lots of illnesses, even more so than years past, excepting COVID. And so there are lots of challenges. And so it's like, okay, so the light is returning, but I don't feel that. I don't really feel like engaging that sometimes. But what does it mean for us to still celebrate the light even though we may not feel the light? And what does it mean for our congregation, and what does it mean for you individually to go out and do what that poem just said and spread the light, and do what the poem by Howard Thurman says, and it's like, let's get to work. The work of Christmas starts now. It's hard to get motivated whenever you feel slumberish. But I have a kind of a challenge for all of us. And this includes me complaining about delivering eggs, which I should not be complaining about because chickens don't normally lay a lot in the winter, but my chickens must be really happy. So where's my happiness? Well, I have it. But I have to keep myself marching towards it. And part of that is about making sure that I spread that happiness, even though it may be a challenge for me personally to feel that light every day. And so the challenge then comes to me in 4 different sort of ideas. One is, how do we try to go out and engage the light? What do we do? What do we need to keep us going so that we can help others? Well, the first point is one, and forgive me because you know I do teach seminary, so this is a seminary type word, but many of you have probably heard it before. Engaging intersectionality. How many of you have heard of intersectionality? Okay, so for those of you who don't know, intersectionality is when multiple points of oppression come together and create a complex situation. A practical example would be if someone happens to be a person of color who also happens to also be a lesbian, who happens to also be challenged with living in a wheelchair, who also happens to be neurospicy, as it were, living with mental illness, those are all points of intersectionality. Often, what we do is we see and respond to just one point of oppression. We spend time talking about women's rights or climate change and all of those things. But one of the other points of intersectionality, and Carrie, I really appreciated what you said, is to realize that climate change is not just a theory. It really affects people and the environment. And one such story was recently communicated to me by some friends of mine who teach in India, who talk about how the staple crop of India, rice, is in great decline because of climate change. Now, we talked about fires, and that's absolutely important to acknowledge because it is part of climate change too. But think about these people who live in almost abject poverty in the southern parts of India, who spend their lives cultivating rice to feed one of the most populous countries in the world, and now their harvests are down by 25% due to climate change, because you know, it does take water for rice to grow, or to keep the weeds out of it, or whatever it is. I don't grow rice, so I don't know much about it. I just know that water is important. And so when a drought happens, and those of us in Minnesota know what droughts are like, we also know what floods are like. All of those things are parts of climate change. So not only do we have that point of oppressiveness from trying to become so enraged to deal with climate change, we also must acknowledge there are people who are actually dealing with losing their very livelihoods and their food, and they can't escape because of immigration issues or all of those things. So there's just multiple points of intersectionality. Now you're saying, Bryan, you said something about being happy somewhere around in here, and this doesn't sound like happy stuff. But you know, some people just need to have the reassurance that someone cares. And maybe it takes us to acknowledge those kinds of things and to say, as one of my favorite phrases from movies, I see you. I see you. You may not be able to do much more than that. One of my dear friends lives in an intersectional world, who is a person that deals with lots of illnesses, who lives in a wheelchair, who is trans and non-binary, and also is dealing with a mold problem in their apartment that can't seem to be resolved because they live in a low-income housing area where it seems as if the landlord doesn't really care whether there's mold making them sick or not. Talk about multiple points of intersectionality. But you know what my friend says to me? I speak with them every week as a part of my pastoral care outreach. And I say, I wish I could do more. And they said to me this week, you don't need to do any more. Thank you for the hour that you spent with me today on Zoom. Sometimes that's all it takes. Spreading happiness by being there for people. It doesn't take a lot of money, just a little time. It doesn't take a lot of effort. I can sit in my chair in my office and just put on my webcam and talk to someone. Seems so simple and not that much from, you know, my standpoint. Like, I wish I could do more. I'm feeling horrible existential guilt at all of this stuff, and I just don't have the propensity to do more. But that's not what they're asking me to do. Just spend time. So maybe recognizing that there are people who live in intersectional realities like that, and just reaching out to them individually or as a congregation, thinking of ways that we can actually bring our good news to the world by acknowledging that. The next of the 4 ideas that I have about spreading happiness is something that we allude to all the time, and that is activism. The announcement today about the march that's happening is one such way of engaging in peaceful activism, allowing the fury of people who ignore climate change to enrage us enough to actually do something, to just speak out, to write a blog post, which I need to preach to myself about, or anything that can just get the word out to say, hey, I realize this is going on and I want to talk about this and I want to find ways that I can get involved. And that's both individual and communal. Peaceful activism. I don't have all the answers to that. I don't know what that means to you. I don't know what you are able to engage in. But activism means action. And so part of this, the light is returning, so now what, is calling us to action. We've enjoyed, I at least have enjoyed and been very moved by our holiday season services here and all of the fellowship that comes along with that, and the camaraderie and people coming and eating and visiting not my chickens, eating the eggs at my house and then visiting the chickens. All of those joys that now, let's get to work. And I know most of us are so busy, and they say, if you want something done, get a busy person to do it. And sometimes I get really tired because I'm such a person, right? But sometimes activism doesn't take any more than just saying something. Just saying something. In fact, I was in the town that my address is in, and somebody said at the bank the other day that, the price of eggs. Well, I won't go on much about that. And then the bank teller, who knows that I raise chickens and I sell eggs, he says, I bet you can't really sell your eggs around here because people want to spend $2 a dozen on eggs. And he said, but he buys my eggs, and he's like, I buy yours because I know that what you're doing is actually trying to make the world a better place and trying to make some little dent in climate change. Now that wasn't me just boasting about that because it's hard work. I even complained about it, right? But the idea of that was I didn't have to say anything. He said that right in front of the customer. So sometimes just by being us and representing ourselves and the ideals that we stand for is activism enough. My eggs spoke for themselves. And they're not really my eggs, they're the world's eggs. The next of the 4 points is engaging in dialogue. Now I've kind of alluded to this, so I won't saturate this point too much, but sometimes we just need to talk about it. We really do. Not just because we want to spread the word and make people feel guilty or anything like that, but let's talk about it. We get so busy in our lives, it's like, okay, we need to discuss that. It's like whenever some of us took a trans set of workshops to try to understand more about the trans community and how that relates to beloved community and the vision of the UUA and this congregation. And even though it really was an educational, wonderful experience, it was about dialogue. The stuff that I saw happen as a result of that instruction in the dialogue and continuing dialogues that we have here in this congregation, and then the education that I receive now that I can actually help people understand when they come to me and say, Pastor Bryan, I know you know a lot about stuff. Can you tell me about this? Well, I can say that before I took this set of workshops, I probably wouldn't have had as much to say or add to the conversation. But dialogue can change people's lives. People are scared to ask questions. I often recall students that I've had who sit and wait until the end of the semester to ask me a question they should have asked the third day. I want to say, can I get an amen from somebody? No. But what's interesting about having taught middle school is I usually didn't have to wait till the end of the semester. I got those questions. And that takes me back to this wonderful song choice that Kathleen made about seeking to engage the world like a child. Sometimes this idea of dialogue needs to happen in such a way that we reinvent our vision of dialogue by asking just the simplest questions and opening up a conversation that can be transformative in ways that we never even predicted. And that, in dialogue, even though some people say talk is cheap, it's really not. Because the more people talking about stuff means that the more stuff that will eventually be known, and then we can go back to point number 2 and engage in activism, get more people involved in that. And then finally, collaboration. How can, and this is more of a communal idea, how can we, as this congregation filled with love and light and passion for social justice, passion for environmental justice, passion for making sure that we welcome everyone, how can we collaborate with other faith groups and other nonprofits and other things going on so that that message that we hold so dear can then be shared with other groups that think like us, maybe in a little different way. Maybe they take action in different ways. Maybe they are not necessarily the people that we would think that we would engage with. For example, there's a group, I live in Waseca, for those of you that don't know that, those are the visitors and people that don't know. And then the largest town near me is Mankato, Minnesota, which I actually love because I recall that name from Little House on the Prairie when I was a kid. So I feel like, you know, Laura Ingalls Wilder every time I go to Mankato, because it's like, oh, this is the big city. But there's a group called Atheism for Change in Mankato. They asked me to come and speak to their group. Now, that's a very unlikely situation for many pastors to go speak to a group of atheists. I am so excited to be able to engage with that group because I think part of it is the leadership of the group wants them to see that a lot of the things that they're fighting against, not all religious people embody, right? And so I think it's really awesome that we also in this congregation have members who are atheists, because you don't need to believe in anything other than what you believe in or don't believe in to come together and make a difference. That's true collaboration, because we all have a common mission and vision somewhere. We may not agree on everything. We have very divergent ways of thinking in this group, and I think it's remarkable. And that's why I feel like I belong in a place that I've never felt like I truly belonged in any church, even the ones that I pastored. It's kind of ironic. Oh, this is on YouTube, right? Somebody's watching that and going to call me, but that's okay. Can handle that collaboration too, right? But that divergence, that diversity in this congregation and all around us, that's what brings us life and vision and mission even more prominently, because we can do great things together, even collaborating with the most unlikely groups of people. So that's a challenge for us, not as much individually like the other points were, but more communally. And so as we move forward in this year 2025, one of the things that we're going to be doing as a congregation is revisiting our mission and vision and thinking about what it means to be Dakota Unitarian Universalist Church in 2025 and beyond, with a new lease on our beliefs or whatever it is. Who can we collaborate with? We're not in competition here. We're trying to change the world and make it a better place for so many people and so many animals and so many trees, and for our blue boat home. Still love that song from our. So that inherently in all that challenge then is, you may say, well, I just don't have time. I don't have the energy. I can't do this. But remember, sometimes all you have to do is be present, ask a question, smile at someone who maybe has not been smiled at all day long. Maybe you have gifts beyond all of that. You might want to give money to our ministries so that we can continue to grow that outreach, because this stuff doesn't happen for free. And I'm not one to like to preach about money, but we have realistic needs, that a lot of this does take financial resources. And so you may not have any of those to give extra beyond what you're giving, but you may want to rethink that. That may be part of your own personal activism. It may be part of your own understanding of intersectionality, that we have needs to reach out to people. There are people that are hungry, and we try to find ways to help them. And so light is returning. It is indeed returning. And one day it'll be warm again. Although I saw on the news it might be warm again next weekend, which I'm kind of glad for, because I want to be on vacation next weekend. But the most important part for me in presenting this information to you is the light is inside of us. It's not just out there. The light lives in our souls, in our spirits, in our minds, and in our hearts. And so it is up to us to engage in understanding intersectionality and meeting those challenges by just being present. To engage in activism, even if it means just actually talking about it. Engaging in dialogue about things that need to be talked about. And of course, also trying to do things in ways where we collaborate with one another in this congregation and in our community and even in the larger world. This is the light. We are the light. We have the light. We don't have to wait on the sun. We don't have to wait on the spring. We are it now, and people need that light. And so when we're challenged, like I am some days when I get up and say, ugh, it's dark and gloomy, where is the light? Hearkening to one of my favorite songs that Chuck leads us in. Just like the song says, though, the light's inside of us. May it be so.
Okay, I've taken the liberty to change the song today to fit the message better. And you'll recognize this song, but I'm titling it, What the World Needs Now is Love in Action. There we go.
Love when the Spirit moves. This is a moment in our service where we, for those of you that are visitors or are online, where we take intentional time to reflect on what we've discussed, and I open that floor to such a discussion.
One of the things that I find so difficult is there are so many choices where to put your energy and your money. It's like, oh, this needs attention. Oh, but this, oh, but that, yeah. Hard.
Very similar to what I was taught and continue to learn in ministry is that there's always more to do than you have time to do it. Mm-hmm. There's always more need than what you have time, talent, and treasure to be able to help. But just one thing makes a difference.
Yeah. You can't do everything, but you can do something. It reminds me, I read this at the council meeting this morning. Our daughter had posted it this earlier, and it's the Serenity Prayer for our times. God, grant me the patience to work with the unjust systems I cannot change today, the courage to strategically enact progress when I know I can, and the wisdom to know that despite structural oppression, I still can make a difference.
One thought that came to me during all this was, when I'm engaging with someone who I don't agree with, the best thing to do is listen. And, of course, I'm not good at that,
You do.
I really appreciate that because as an extrovert, they warned me when I went to seminary that ministry isn't about just getting up and preaching. It's about stopping and listening. So I had to learn a lot about listening and be really intentional about it. And it's sometimes more of a challenge than I'd like to admit.
Well, the first step to listening is asking the question. And that helps.
Well, I invite us to, if you feel moved to do so, to engage any continuous reflection about this during treat time and fellowship after service today. And so at this time, what I'd like to do is invite everyone to rise as you are able and join me in our closing hymn. Number 345. 345. So my insight is not surprising. Go therefore and spread your light. And let's be seated to sing our postlude together. We are sending you light to heal you, to hold you. We are sending you light to hold you in love. We are sending you light to heal you, to hold you. We are sending you light to hold you in love. And don't forget to join us for treats.
I just did a one-through.
That's perfect.
Yes,
And look, we ended service on time.
Hey,
I
you did it.
didn't even have to make that announcement.
That one just like totally balances into that one.
I think this is Bryan. Bryan wants to meet my longtime dear friend Julie.
Hi, Julie. Sorry, my hands are probably cold because I'm up here slinging them around. Nice.
Can you just give a brief summary about your firm and your intention?
Oh, sure, sure. Yeah, so the background is when in Florida, we tried this, and politically didn't work out really in the rural areas of Florida. So we sold everything and moved back here. And when I say back, it was only back for me. I went to seminary here. I've always been involved in beyond organic, regenerative, biodynamic agriculture as more of a but we ended up creating this vision here, which has been received much more emphatically well here in Minnesota. So we do biodynamic agriculture and regenerative, restorative. We sequester more carbon than our chickens and geese and ducks produce, and we utilize that in compost for all of our beyond organic gardening and market gardening. And it's just begun, but we're still expanding, and it's just been a great development. Our chickens are pastured, spoiled, everyone has a name. We don't name the meat chickens because that would be a little more difficult. So, but we do it as holistically and pragmatically as possible.
I'd love you to see their farm sometime. The next time they open it up to all of us.
Oh yeah, or you can just come out anytime. It doesn't matter. We have people out there all the time.
Radical hospitality,
Yes,
we call it. He did a sermon on that once. It was so great. Well, all his sermons are great, but yeah, to me, they really are. Yeah.
We're gonna grab that?
Yeah.
I appreciate it. And I think that they usually put a farm card, business card, and we have a website and everything that'll tell you more. And then we do have periodic events. We're just still growing and changing. And then we have right now 3 stops for delivering eggs. One is here in the parking lot, one's at the IKEA, and then one's at the Target in Edina. And, yeah, we just go to each place
And then people meet you in the parking lot.
Not a new idea. A lot of co-ops do that.
Yeah, yeah.
Those stops just emerged because that's where the interest came from. And I can't believe we're delivering that many dozen. Good to have you. Thank you so much. Nice to meet you.
Your name's familiar, I'm trying to figure out, you have that connection?
No, I have not. I'm only very recently replanted in Minnesota.
Okay.
But I went to United Seminary and I have some publications and things like that, but I know that they talk about it in maybe you ever But I teach at United Seminary, which is where I went, as well as doing the farm fair in the past. I don't want to get bored. It's great to have you. Well, and the thing of it is that they were in the process of revisioning, so they didn't know what to
Put away this stuff, it's part of my duties.
I was thinking about that.
There you go. Oh, yeah.
Hi, so you're her friend? These are for regular ed kids? Because usually, I work with the kids with level 3 and 4 classes in the morning. Right.